Well, happy Friday, everybody. I was all excited today because the Ghost Post, the second month of the Haunted Mansion subscription box, was supposed to come today. At least that's what it said. It said estimated delivery date May 6th, which is today. And it's in Orlando, but it didn't come when everything else came. So I don't think we're going to be able to do it tonight. But I did get my new, I got a new lens for the camera. So this is a full frame 50 millimeter 1.8 f-stop. So it's a prime lens. That means it doesn't have any zoom on it. The lens that we're using right now, I'm trying to read it off the lens. It is a 28 to 70 with stabilization in the lens, and it's a 3.5 f-stop minimum. So this one is a lot different. Like, there's no zoom on it. The f-stop's a lot lower, and there's no stabilization in it. So we're going to see the camera has stabilization in it. That was one of the reasons that we got this camera, is that it has stabilization inside of it, and then we have the stabilization in the lens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up on a tripod, zoom into 50 millimeters on this lens, and show you guys like an example of what it looks like, and then I'll switch over to this lens so that we can see what the difference is. So here is the original lens that we've always had on here, zoomed into 50. I don't have the aperture set. Let me do that really quick because that will affect it. I'm going to try to set the aperture down as low as it'll go, which this one was what? What did it say it was? 3.5. So this one can go down to 3.5. We're going to set it down to 3.5 and see how it does. Okay, so I don't know why, but this, for whatever reason, when I'm zoomed into 50, I can't put the aperture down any lower than 4.5. So this is it. This is as far down as the aperture goes. So let's switch lenses and see what I can do with the aperture now. And so here is the difference. This is the new Sony 50 millimeter lens that has like this awesome blurriness behind it. And that's what can happen when you have a lower aperture. Like this aperture is set to 1.8 right now. So pretty awesome. And I can move in a little bit closer. Let's see. How's that look? Looks pretty awesome, right? I like this. It's cool looking to me. I could totally get used to this. I like this a lot. The camera's lighter because it's a smaller lens. I don't know. Here's the other thing. There's no stabilization in this lens. So is it bouncier than it normally is? Or does it look about the same to you guys? I don't know. I know it's zoomed a lot more in than it normally is because that's the way that the 50 millimeter works. Like 50 millimeters is I don't even know how to explain it. It's a closer lens. So here it is. What do you guys think? Okay, so the last time that I filmed with this lens, I had my phone up on top of the camera so that I could see what you guys were seeing. Now, I don't have anything there, so I can't really see what's going on. I hope that I'm in the shot, or at least I hope that I'm all in the shot. I know that some part of me is in the shot. But what I'm most excited for with this new lens is taking it into low light situations, because the wider the aperture, which this one's a 1.8, whereas the last one we had only went down to 3, the brighter the lens, so I can take it into darker situations. Yes, I'm excited for that. So, because this lens doesn't have the stabilization inside of it, we kind of have to use it on a tripod some of the time. Like if I'm on a ride and I'm holding it with both hands, I'm fairly certain that I can hold it pretty darn stable, but it's not going to be as stable as the other lens, which is interesting. So, and there's that. It's also like the camera's really far away from me right now. Like with the other lens, I couldn't do this. But I can do that with this one. Yay! Fun fact, I wanted a wider lens, but because this camera is pretty darn new, they don't really offer a wider lens. They offer one, but it's crop frame, or ASPC, I think is what it's called. Whereas this is a full frame camera. So like, if I put one of those lenses on here, I lose some of my sensor, which makes the video not as good as it could be. I don't know. Here's the thing about this lens. It's very bright. It's a prime lens. It's a 50 millimeter. It's pretty loud when it's focusing. It's pretty slow to focus. And there's no stabilization in it. But I still like the lens a lot. I think it's a good lens, and it'll be good for when we go on dark rides. So like, you guys know how bright I got it before, but when I get it that bright, it gives me a purple hue around the outside, just because I'm basically like pulling light from nowhere. So it's like, I don't know, here's some purple light, because that's like ultraviolet. So that will go away a little bit with this lens, but it'll be harder to focus on things. So I might switch to manual focus when we're going on the ride so that it's not constantly trying to find focus, and I will just adjust as best I can while we're riding the ride. So, yeah, I'm excited to try it out on a ride. Also, the other thing that should be interesting, like right now I have the aperture wide open, 1.8. So, what should be interesting on the rides is that makes my focus range so tiny. So that when I'm finally focusing on something, like right here, everything behind me is blurry, but the focus range is just like right here on my face. Not behind me, not in front of me, but just right here on my face. So as we move back, like the aperture will close down. Well, normally it would close down, but like if something comes in front of the camera, it's not in focus. Does that make any sense? Like, I don't know, that's what aperture does, is it opens and closes an iris inside of the camera, and that makes it so that more or less light comes in, but by making the iris wider, that changes your focal length, like your maximum, what is it? I don't even know what it's called, but basically it puts the plane that the focus can be in one spot. Whereas if I were to close down the iris, I can be in focus like all over the place, like close, far away, that sort of stuff. So I think that's one of the things that makes this camera slower to focus and also louder to focus, because when the iris is wide open, it's trying to focus on a very small area of space between the wall and the camera. Here, we'll say that. So it's trying to focus on my face, and it's a very small space, whereas if I close down the iris or raise the f-stop, that makes that space bigger where it can focus and have an easier time focusing. So if the f-stop's lower, the focus will be easier and faster. So like in bright daylight, this thing probably focuses really fast, but because I have the f-stop at 1.8, it makes it so that it's slower to focus because it has to find a specific spot in air. I hope that makes sense. So you guys saw how much trouble the camera was having focusing before when I had the aperture wide open. Right now I got that aperture shut down and my ISO turned way up. So let's see if we can change the focus now and see if it does a better job of keeping me in focus, but also the stuff behind me in focus. So, like, that might be a description of aperture right there, like a visual description of aperture. So, yeah, I don't know. I have to look at this and see how it turned out. I know that the last clip wasn't really in focus for a long time, but like I said, that's because of the aperture being wide open. It was having a hard time, like, oh my gosh, there's so much information. What do I want to pick? And I have it set to recognize my face, but I don't think that it quite caught on quick enough in the last one. So it's going to be interesting. You know, like a give and a take. We have to learn how to play with this lens. Fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to try something real crazy. I have my phone set up over here so that I can see what's going on. I'm going to try to change the aperture right now so that you guys can see the representation of what's happening behind me. Like right now I'm in focus. So I'm sorry for the shaking of the camera, but I need to get to a dial back here. And we'll see if we can see what happens in the background here. Ooh. Yeah, that was pretty neat. Yeah, a little bit less blurry. Blurry in the background. That was cool, right? This is high technology right here. It's pretty neat being able to see the iris inside of there too. Like the actual aperture. Lower it down just a little bit. Yeah. A little bit more. Bring Homer into focus there. There he is. There's Homer's in focus. So you guys see it adjusting every time. What it's doing is it's changing my shutter speed, and it is changing my ISO. So that I'm probably like ruining this lens by like not slamming, but opening the shutter, or the aperture open and close. But I wanted to show you guys exactly what aperture means, and this is what it means. So yeah, cool, right? So we've decided to watch The Martian. I'm excited. We rented it from Google Play, which, by the way, is the most difficult way to rent a movie. Like, if I were renting it on iTunes, I would have just rented it, like, on my phone and been like, there it is, done. Watch it on the TV. This one, for whatever reason, I can't figure this out for the life of me, I have to rent it on the computer, and then I can watch it on my phone. Why can't I just rent it on my phone? Just be like, rent. Like, what? Doesn't make any sense to me. I know that you guys with Androids can do it, but I can't do it on my iPhone. Just give me a Google Play Store. That's all that I want.
This is how Android people feel all the time.
Oh, really?
Like,
Yeah.
right? Don't you think?
That makes sense.
So, like, it's cool.
Sorry. All right. It was easy. It wasn't too bad. I rented it on the computer. So we just finished watching The Martian, and it was fantastic. It was such a good movie. I really enjoyed it a lot. Like a lot. I kind of want to read the book now. Like, I liked the science behind it. I liked all of the like funny, witty comments that they would make, and like the action and the suspense. It was good. It was a good all-around movie. I highly suggest it to anybody. Like, go watch The Martian. So a lot of you guys were asking about how the pool turned out. It turned out okay. Like, it's still working through whatever's wrong with it. So, we got some comments saying that maybe it's mustard algae, but it still feels like pollen to me, but I'm not really sure. So right now, it's probably about like 66% clear. So it's getting there, like it's on its way to being clear, but it's not clear yet. So the filter is pulling a lot of it out, and that stuff that I put in is like making it all clump together. I just don't know if it's algae or pollen yet. The reason I thought it was pollen was because we've got this tree in the back that keeps dumping like it's flowers into our pool, but they're like these cottony looking things. It actually looks like a ton of spiders fell into our pool. And the reason that's one of the reasons that I thought it was pollen was because that fell in there and then this whole thing happened. But it could still be an algae bloom, which would stink, but it's still possible. But with that being said, I do have to go to bed because I'm tired. Been up for a while. So I will see you guys tomorrow, which we will be getting our ghost post tomorrow, so that's a good thing. And now it's time to pay the price. It's actually the next morning, but here is the current status of the pool. As you can see, it's starting to clear up. We've still got some spots here. I'm about to dump the vacuum in there to get those out. And I'll probably sweep down the steps and stuff like that. But yeah, it's starting. It's starting to clear up. It's like, it's working its way. It's getting there.